Have you ever stopped to think that a simple habit, which many consider harmless, could be slowly destroying your health without you even realizing it? What if I told you that, if you're over 50 and still haven't changed this behavior, your prostate could be in imminent danger? What I'm going to reveal to you today could completely change the way you see the health of your prostate. And no, I'm not talking about something that will happen in the distant future, but rather a silent process that may already be underway inside your body. And by the time the first signs appear, it may be too late to reverse the damage. The truth is that most men believe they feel good, so that's okay. But the big problem is that there are internal threats that don't cause immediate pain, don't show obvious signs at first, and when they finally manifest themselves, can represent a real collapse in your quality of life. And worse, no one talks about it. Many doctors avoid bringing up the subject because they know that most patients simply don't want to hear this truth. But here, I'll tell you everything you need to know. And if you don't change this habit now, the damage could be irreversible. I know you might be thinking, does this really apply to me? So answer me honestly. Have you ever felt a strange discomfort in the pelvic area, a feeling of heaviness, or even changes that seem small but weren't there before? This may be one of the first signs that your prostate is already being affected. And if you think I'm exaggerating, keep watching, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you alarming evidence that this habit you know well could be causing your prostate to wear out at an accelerated rate. Stay with me until the end because, in addition to explaining the impacts, I'm going to show you what you can do right now to avoid this fate and preserve the health of your prostate before it's too late. You may not even realize it now, but this repetitive habit is putting your prostate in a constant state of alert. What few know is that this part of your body was not designed to withstand frequent stimuli without recovery periods. And when the prostate is overloaded, a dangerous effect begins to develop without you even realizing it. Silent inflammation and progressive tissue weakening. The big problem is that over time, this continuous inflammation can turn into a degenerative process. Small changes begin to appear, but as they do not cause severe pain at first, they go unnoticed. This is how many men only realize something is wrong when the symptoms have become severe and recovery becomes much more difficult. And do you know what makes this situation even worse? The false sense of normality. You go about your routine without realizing that internally, your prostate is fighting to recover. Many men over 50 begin to feel subtle changes. Their energy is no longer the same. Their stamina decreases. The pelvic region seems more tense. And even the functioning of the body begins to show signs that something is not right. But instead of turning on the warning bells, they think this is just natural aging. What no one tells you is that these changes can be a direct reflection of the overload that your prostate has been experiencing over the years. Every time it has to work more than it should, blood circulation in the region becomes less efficient, making oxygenation and cell nutrition difficult. This means that if this process continues, your prostate may begin to lose its natural ability to stay healthy. And when that happens, the risks increase drastically. Now, think about it. Do you want to wait until you experience the most serious symptoms to finally take action? Or would you prefer to act now, while there is still time to avoid a problem that could compromise your health forever? This channel was created with one purpose: to prevent you from discovering prostate problems when it is too late. Sign up now because here you will have access to vital information to protect your men's health. Have you ever wondered why so many men, upon reaching the age of 50, begin to notice unexpected changes in their bodies, especially in their prostate health? Many believe that it is just natural aging, but what no one tells you is that certain habits practiced over the years may be accelerating this wear and tear process, making the prostate increasingly vulnerable to serious problems. And what's worse, without most people noticing the signs in time. As incredible as it may seem, I've received countless cases in my office of men who, without knowing it, were putting their prostate at risk because of the high frequency of this practice. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. They arrive with varied symptoms, from discomfort in the pelvic region to inexplicable tiredness that directly affects their quality of life. At first, they believe it's a temporary thing, but when we investigate further, we discover an alarming pattern. The prostate is reacting to years of overload without adequate recovery. And one of the most worrying problems with this process is prostatic calcification, a dangerous condition that may be developing without you realizing it. If you've never heard of it, I'll explain it to you in the simplest way possible. Imagine that your prostate is becoming more rigid and full of small, hard deposits that make it difficult for it to function properly. These deposits are formed by metabolic and mineral residues that, over the years, accumulate inside the gland, hardening its structures and making the organ less efficient. But how does this happen? Excessive frequent stimulation causes the prostate to work too much and is unable to regenerate correctly. When this becomes a repetitive pattern, small residues that should be eliminated by the body begin to accumulate, forming so-called prostatic microlithiasis, which are small stones inside the prostate. Over time, these microcrystals group together and become calcified deposits, hardening the prostate tissues and impairing blood circulation in the region. This can lead to even more serious problems, such as obstruction of the channels that transport essential fluids, hindering their natural release and increasing the risk of persistent infections and inflammation. And what makes prostate calcification so dangerous? It develops silently, with no obvious symptoms at first. Most men only realize that something is wrong when the condition is advanced and begins to cause severe consequences. Some of the most common signs include feeling of constant pressure in the pelvic region, as if something is obstructing or squeezing the prostate internally, reduction in the elasticity of prostate tissues, making the organ less functional and more vulnerable to chronic inflammation, discomfort when sitting for a long time, as the calcified prostate can press on the nerves in the pelvic region, emergence of recurrent inflammations, which can cause prolonged discomfort and pain. And here's an alarming fact: prostate calcification can be irreversible if not treated in time. Just as with kidney or gallstones, these deposits can continue to grow until they begin to impair the full functioning of the prostate. Now imagine living with a problem like this without even knowing it is happening inside your body. And worse, imagine discovering this when there is no longer much that can be done to reverse the situation. I have seen cases of men who simply ignored the signs, thinking it was something normal with their age. However, when they did tests, they realized that the prostate was already full of calcifications, and this drastically limited his quality of life. Now I want you to stop and reflect. Have you ever felt a strange discomfort in the pelvic region? A feeling of pressure that seemed to have no explanation? Have you ever had the feeling that something inside you wasn't working like it used to, but you couldn't pinpoint exactly what? If so, this could be a warning sign, and ignoring it could be costly in the future. Leave a comment saying, "I need to take better care of my prostate." Your comment may help other men realize that they are not alone and that this issue needs to be discussed before it is too late. Now I'm going to reveal to you how prostate calcification can directly compromise your vitality and energy over time, and what you can do now to prevent this from happening to you. Have you ever heard of the silent impact that certain habits can have on the nervous system in the pelvic region? What many people don't realize is that the prostate doesn't work alone. It is connected to a complex network of nerves and muscles that regulate everything from the release of fluids to the sensation of control in the region. And here's the problem. When this network starts to fail, the signals sent between the brain and prostate become compromised, leading to serious problems that directly affect your quality of life. As incredible as it may seem, I have received countless cases of men reporting strange symptoms, something they never imagined could be related to this practice, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. The most common complaint? Progressive loss of sensitivity in the pelvic region. At first, this may seem like an unimportant detail, something that comes and goes, but as time passes, the effects begin to become more evident and, in many cases, irreversible. But what exactly is going on here? The brain and prostate are always in communication. Whenever this gland is stimulated, the pelvic nerves send signals to the brain, activating areas responsible for the physical response. However, when this stimulus occurs too frequently, and without adequate recovery time, these nerves can begin to lose efficiency, becoming less responsive and decreasing perception of the region over time. This means that over time, the prostate may begin to suffer a type of disconnection with the brain, making muscle control more difficult and reducing the perception of the region's natural sensations. The loss of pelvic sensitivity can trigger a domino effect, where the brain needs increasingly intense stimuli to respond in the same way. This can result in chronic neuromuscular fatigue, where the muscles in the region lose their ability to respond appropriately, making pelvic movements less coordinated. Furthermore, this disconnection can affect the release of essential fluids from the prostate, leading to less efficiency in internal cleaning of the gland and increasing the risk of prostate congestion. And what is the real impact of this on your life? Progressive reduction in pelvic awareness, making you not notice problems until they become serious. Increased recovery time in the region, making the muscles less efficient and causing constant fatigue in the pelvis. Difficulty maintaining adequate prostate function in the long term, as communication between the brain and gland begins to fail. Tendency to develop permanent muscular and nervous changes in the region, reducing quality of life and increasing the risk of urological problems in the future. Now, the most worrying thing, most men only realize that something is wrong when the loss of sensitivity has advanced to the point where it is difficult to reverse. At first, it's just a slight feeling that something is not the same as before. Then it becomes an occasional discomfort, until one day, the region seems to be disconnected from the rest of the body, and any effort to stimulate the nerves becomes less and less efficient. And you may be asking yourself, but can this happen to me? If you've noticed subtle changes in your awareness of your pelvic region, an occasional feeling of numbness, or a difficulty feeling the same response as before, it's possible that your pelvic nervous system is reacting to years of overstimulation and lack of recovery. I have seen men who ignored these signs for years, believing it was a temporary thing, until they realized the damage had already been done, and complete recovery became increasingly difficult. Now, I want you to stop and think for a moment. Have you ever felt like your pelvic region is less responsive than before? Have you ever noticed that your perception of sensations is different, even if you can't explain exactly why? If so, this could be a clear sign that your body is warning you before the problem becomes permanent. Leave a comment saying, "I want to get my pelvic health back." Your comment may help other men realize they need to act before it's too late. Throughout this video, you finally discovered truths that many men spend their entire lives ignoring. You now understand that the prostate is not just a small, forgotten gland in the male body. It is one of the pillars of your health, vitality, and well-being. And more than that, you saw that certain habits accumulated over the years could be putting your health at risk, silently, without you realizing it until it's too late. The issue is not just getting old, it's aging the right way, maintaining your quality of life, your energy, and your vitality. What you do today can determine whether you will live a long and healthy life or whether you will face serious problems that could have been avoided. Now the question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? You can ignore all of this and continue living as if nothing were happening, as if your prostate were indestructible. But if you've made it this far, I know you're not the type of man who prefers to close his eyes to reality. If at any point in this video you realize that some of the signs I mentioned may be happening to you, now is the time to act. Don't wait for symptoms to get worse. Don't wait for discomfort to become pain. Don't wait for small changes in your body to turn into serious problems. You have the chance to avoid a complicated future in your hands. And the first thing you need to do is start paying more attention to your body's signals. Many men ignore mild symptoms because they think they are temporary. But when it comes to the prostate, the sooner you identify a problem, the greater the chances of avoiding irreversible consequences. It's not just about avoiding discomfort. It's about ensuring that your life remains active, full, and full of energy. You cannot allow your vitality to be compromised by something that could be avoided with simple measures. And speaking of simple measures, looking for a urologist is essential. If you have already felt any of the symptoms we talk about here, Make an appointment, take your exams, and ask a professional for any questions you may have. Unfortunately, many men stop doing this out of shame or because they think it is not necessary. But the truth is that there is nothing more important than your health. A consultation could be what separates you from a serious problem in the future. An exam can be the difference between detecting something at the beginning or finding out when there is nothing much that can be done. And if you still don't feel any symptoms, even better. Prevention is the key to a long and healthy life. So even if everything seems fine now, don't neglect your health. Take care of your prostate with the respect it deserves. Now, if this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, I have a request for you. Don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Many men still have no idea of the risks they are taking because they have never heard of this information. So share this video with friends, siblings, relatives. Help more men take care of their own health before it's too late. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. This shows that you really care about your health and want to avoid problems before it's too late. I want to invite you to leave a comment saying, "I watched the full video," so that I can get to know you and know who is really committed to taking care of their own men's health. Also, check now if you are already subscribed to the channel. If not yet, click the subscribe button to continue receiving essential content for your health. And before you leave, there is something very important waiting for you. Most men only realize that something is wrong with their prostate when it's too late. In the first pinned comment, I left a link to a playlist that can prevent this from happening to you. Watch now before it's too late.